acting life or what I was asked to do. Maybe it did in subtle ways, but not in ways that I ever realised.
The very first notices were not favourable.
Initially, the critics were a bit pissy about it. They weren't raves by any means.
I remember the Guardian critic, whose name I remember but I won't quote now, starting his criticism by saying there ought to be a society for the prevention of cruelty to actors.
We knew it was good. We knew that we were in something very, very classy. But we were a little bit chary of how it was going to go with the audience.
My then husband, Peter O'Toole, said, "Oh, don't worry about this." He said he had asked somebody to research the notices for the novel when that came out, and they were almost identical with the notices for the series when it came out. You know, people were shocked that people in togas were talking slang, and they found it rather odd. And then within a few weeks, everyone had sort of turned around and changed their minds and started giving it much better notices.
It was not until we were about halfway through the series I got an inkling that perhaps this was bigger than most other things, and it was just a sort of gut feeling.
It was just about halfway through the series when we were starting to film the last episode that they turned around and said, "We've made a terrible mistake. This is actually great television and brilliantly written and wonderfully directed and marvellous acting." So everybody was on a big, big high.
And I just think, not because I'm in it, I think it's the best series ever I've ever seen. I'm going to be objective. I'm too bloody old, man, too long in the tooth to have that kind of vanity. I think the whole standard by everybody in the teamwork. It is on its own.
I mean, I'm quite sure that they could show it again now. I'm sure that there's a generation that would be, because I think it's timeless. It's not something which is going to date that badly.
The critics initially hadn't greeted it with open arms, but right from the beginning, the public seemed to.
If you like EastEnders, if you like Coronation Street, or any of those, then I, Claudius, you can relate I, Claudius to that.
It was like a sort of Roman Coronation Street. I mean, I think that's where it scored, because it was everyday life in a way, and portrayed as such, and yet the most appalling things happened, like murders and everything, which of course wouldn't happen in an everyday soap of today, but in those days it did. And I think that's where the public really liked it. I think that's where the public took it into its heart and relished it.
If I say I did I, Claudius, all these years later, people still react to it, still remember it, still say, "Oh, I see." And I've done a lot of work since then. I mean, some of it quite well received, but that's the one that everybody remembers.
The adaptation by Pullman is outstanding. Great work. Great scholarship. Great work by Erskine. Great direction. Great production. Staff, makeup, wardrobe, outstanding cast that worked as a team. And I think it's as near perfection as you can get. I think we all got it together right. And I think that God looks down on a great team and smiles with satisfaction and says, "That is it. That's enough."